Oh, what's up, everybody? We got a real quick one. I'm sure you all have seen the ban and errata announcement, but I figured it is my duty as a content creator to put my opinions out into the ethos. And I'll say right off the bat, I'm giving this ban list a B plus. I think it was really good. It's more than they've normally done, both in terms of the actual amount of cards hit, but in terms of therefore shaking up the format. So it was not my ideal list. My ideal list, of course, was like 28 cards, scorched earth, shape a new world in the image of your own liking. But we did get 5 cards added to the bans and errata list. And I think the biggest highlight is the first one here is Pony Sunatori. I like this errata a lot as far as the power level goes. I hate it like in theory. I think in theory, the idea that she's like uncapped on her horn counter expenditure I think is really cool. um I think that the idea of getting enough counters to be able to do that multiple times was good gameplay. I thought personally the breakdown for Pony Sunatori was the fact that she could generate enough card advantage that the discard 2 cards and draw 1 card was not the drawback that it used to be, right? Because this character was like theoretically kind of crazy, but effectively, losing a whole card just to generate counters and do what your character does was very difficult to keep up with. Um, the average attack draws you 1 card and you just kind of go back to even, doesn't feel good. You're not generating actual advantage. So, in lieu of, having to ban, I think, 2 different rares from Attack on Titan, they decided to errata Pony. So this, you're far from an ideal world. You're far from a perfect world. I feel like in a perfect world, you actually just hit Feral Shriek and Wish hard, but that probably hurts other characters more than just hurting Pony, as you'll see later in this list. But yeah, the once per turn on the clearing I think is totally fine. This hurts the air versions. This hurts the versions that are trying to brain off aggro and play the super risky style and, hit all the bing bongs to get the turn 2. So and I think most of this list I think is trying to kill turn 2s. I think that is the number one thing they're willing to take action on is actually winning the game turn 2, not just having an explosive hand that basically wins you the game, but like an actual bona fide turn 2 kill. And Pony was pretty good at that. So I'm fine with it. Again, I think like holistically in my perfect world, Pony hard gets counters, and like on turn 4 or 5 has a nuts turn where they clear multiple times, but we're just not living in that world. Our game just doesn't have the capacity for that anyways right now. So you might as well just curb the Pony randomness a little bit. So here's the one I'm not a fan of, Sweeping Daggers. Those who know me knows I'm the biggest proponent of Sweeping Daggers. I'm the biggest fan. I've seen some people say that big difficulties are back on the menu. I don't know if I believe that. You got to put your money where your mouth is. I would not be surprised if more people sign up these high difficulty attacks overall on metaverses, but I swear, I promise you, I'm gonna look at the Rochester top 8, and it's not gonna have that many. I don't think Scotland top 8 is gonna have that many, and people are gonna go, "Oh well, it's the size of the event or whatever," and then we're gonna go on to World Season, and the same decks that were already playing high difficulties, I think will. I genuinely think that that's the case. I personally look at high difficulty cards, and I choose not to put them in my deck with no thought towards Sweeping Daggers. Like, Sweeping Daggers never even enters my mind. But the vast majority of decks where I look at these high difficulty attacks, I just evaluate that they're not good enough for the deck on their own. And then the decks that do play the high difficulties really well are still going to and always did with Sweeping Daggers. Zeke Yeager, War Chief, all the backup decks were already playing 7 diffs because Sweeping Daggers steals basically nothing from them. Colossal Confrontation might be on the menu now. I mean, I did actually randomly play a one of Colossal Confrontation that got Sweeping Daggers in a game yesterday. So, that is kind of a pretty big blowout. But the big blowout was the Ruin 3, not even my rivals searching the deck. So I don't know. It is what it is. If sweeping daggers does if banning sweeping daggers does bring back high diffs into the format, or I guess introduces them for the first time, we kind of had it for like Mothra for like a hot minute, and then Smiling Titan got errata. So like it was never. I don't know. I feel like it was never about sweeping daggers. I know there's a few other people like minded that think that that was never really the case, but there's a few people that are already saying that they will play high difficulties now. So I'm down for it. I'm down to see high difficulties, mix it up. Teaming with the Attack Titan, this is a great ban. I hate this reasoning down here. They say within the scope of a typical aggro shell, the card performs well but isn't problematic. I don't know if I agree with that. Every time I see this card get played as a 1 diff, it's problematic. Most of the time it gets played as a 2 diff, it's problematic. They're printing more and more cards like this, right? I think it's what Great Yamada Attack, I think is what they called it. The Big Whale. May's Big Whale is a very similarly shaped attack. There's Stomp Through Town, which is like a similarly shaped attack. So, those other ones are much more restrictive than this one. And so I think that they won't be as big of a deal. Like Stomp Through Town is, I think, what, a 4/4? But you have to like empty your hand anyway. Like card advantage helps teaming with the Attack Titan because it helps consistently get that many attacks out. Card advantage hurts with those others. So I personally think printing 1 difficulty, 5/5s, like well statted 1 difficulty attacks is problematic. Um, but it not doing anything else other than being a cheap attack is, more in line with a lot of other designs that we see, right? Like Aerial Kikosho is just a reversal. It's just kind of well statted, I guess, if you get it to 4 difficulty. But a 4 high for 7 on a 6 diff, or a 4 diff that you have to commit a foundation for, like that's not impressive, right? Like their text is just enabling you to play them at the cost that is and at the timing that it's worthwhile. So I don't know. I think this design philosophy of play your normal turn and then just get a free attack is problematic, but I'm glad to see it go. This definitely hits like the Porco loops. This definitely could have just been banned before Atlanta, and then I could have. Well, I guess if this whole ban list happened before Atlanta, I wouldn't have played Hanji. But whatever. The point is I'm glad to see the Porco deck get dunked. I'm glad to see the Devil Jin deck get hit a bit. I don't think Devil Jin is dead because of this, right? But I do think that Porco is, or I don't think Devil Jin like shifts down a whole tier because of this, but I do think Porco shifts down. I shouldn't say Porco's dead. Porco can still play 3 diffs at you and like Marley's Warrior, and still play an obscene amount of attacks. And the mill 3 with all the bing bongs is actually super super annoying to deal with. But yeah, I'm glad to see this one on here. Nine Titans throughout the ages. Get this shit out of here. Fuck this card. I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to be mean. I hope no one really liked this card. I hope no one takes that too seriously, I guess. But like, just ill, man. I played Hanji 1 with Titan Pile and Throws, and this card just didn't play all the time. Ew. Just it didn't feel good to play this card. It didn't feel good to play against this card. It felt super bad when both people played this card. Just ew. And then Titan Cliff. This is probably the most surprising one of all. Um, I would not have expected this one to get hit, but I think it's a great hit. I do think their take on this was very accurate. It was interesting. It was a card that wasn't touched much and splashed a little bit. Rodans liked it for a while and then they didn't, and now it is the centerpiece of entire archetypes because we printed so many good 6 checks. This card just got target after target after target after target, right? It building Inspiring Song is somehow one of the least offensive things it can do, right? Which is truly amazing. Finally Free was really starting to break this card. But even before that, the Rodan decks that were building stuff like Hiei, Three Eyes of Hiei, they were building stuff like memory upgrade so that they could cape first. Ultra Regen was like hand in hand with this card, right? Shares 2 symbols. Um just building a free number 10 pro hero, a blank 6 check, was great enough. Pass through walls, that's the other one I'm thinking of. Pass through walls was huge. I'm a little sad we didn't see this card like iterate into an anti-Deku world where it like builds you finger guns, and we haven't seen finger guns really like emerge as uh a meta threat counterpiece. And I think with Titancliff going away and with finger guns rotating soon, we never will. But this one's fine. Yeah, the idea that this was making decks way too consistent by just, fixing half your hand on turn 2 and basically refunding its cost, and sometimes plussing you because you just checked a 6 on it anyways. I think this makes perfect sense and I'm down for it. Like I said, I give this one a B plus for two main reasons. One, I think that I'm surprised it took them an extra month. Like with no events, I remember a month ago people were talking about buying, some of these cards, teaming with the Attack Titan and Sweeping Daggers being the most expensive, I think, or Nine Titans, I think, was getting up there too, right? It's an ultra rare. So there was a little bit of an issue, I think, where about a month ago we were all kind of saying, or a lot of us were saying, like, uh if they didn't hit it now, they're not going, right? Um and so I think about a month ago people finally pulled the trigger on buying some of these cards. And so that's I think a knock against it. I think if you could convince me a good reason why it took an extra month to hit these cards with no events, right? Like it's not like we had to wait for a regional to like change things up. They just said we have a month to wait, so we're gonna wait and do the math and maybe like some more internal testing. So like I get it. I get why. I get that there are reasons that this could be, but I really feel like these were pretty much all slam dunks. And then the two cards, the two things I think could have made this an A plus for me. Again, my ideal list is, torch the format to the ground, but we'll never get that. So what would have made this an A plus for me would have been a Deku 6 hit, which there's a lot of cards coming in Guilty Gear that do kind of mess with him, and like the roaming cancel itself does, but he's got Guardian Angel Chinatown, so your mileage may vary really hard on that. Um, but on top of that, the Deku 6, just felt like one of the primary gatekeepers. He felt like one of the biggest gatekeepers in the format. And then I really wanted to see something from a heist deck. I know it's like the brand new toy, so that one's probably not going to get hit. If we couldn't get heist, we could have got unyielding. I would have taken two of the three. Damn, now I have to edit this. I would have taken two of the three for sure from that. So, it is what it is. But this was a really good list. I'm glad they did something. I'm glad they did a lot of something. I think every ban list going forward should be, 4 or 5 cards. And I think that would keep things fresh and interesting as we go on, especially if we can continue to hit cards that are commons and not necessarily ultra rare. We obviously don't want to hit the more expensive chase cards. But that's my thoughts. What do you guys think down in the comments below? Is this an A plus ban? Did any of these cards not deserve to get banned? That's always, I think, the bigger takeaway from the ban list is people are vocal about getting cards banned. And usually you're only vocal in response to it, right? Like I only talk about Sweeping Daggers being a necessary evil when people talk about banning it. So let me know down in the comments, what was your necessary evil? Which of these cards deserve to live on in infamy in the standard format down in the comments below.